Good morning, Seth. Likewise, it's nice to be able to have a somewhat face-to-face conversation.
I love it for sure. I miss seeing you at ball games, by the way.
Yeah,
Marcella wrapped up its baseball
yeah,
season this year. I was thinking, gosh, I haven't seen Mrs. Vogt in a year now. So miss seeing you out
great.
there sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Jack just finished his freshman year at Augustana,
Yeah,
and they had a good run there at the end as well. So
good, good,
exciting
good.
to see kids moving on and doing great things.
No doubt. Speaking of kids moving on, your kids are off to the summer. When was your kid's last day of school over there in Bement schools, Mrs. Vogt?
Our students' last day was May 16th, and our staff last day was May 17th. So it's been 2 weeks since,
Wow.
well, yeah, 2 weeks.
How now? I talked to Dr. Widener
Mhm.
just across the way in Cerro Gordo from you all. What did you do that you're getting your kids out so early?
Me personally,
Well,
or
I mean
as a
the district, yes.
sure. And Seth, one of the decisions we made last year at this time was to move our graduation ceremony up a week.
Hmm.
Typically, it would have been the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, which was always a week, with no snow days used.
Hmm.
Um, but our seniors would have come back a week later to do the graduation ceremony. And
Hmm.
so we moved it up so that it was the ceremony the Friday night of the last week that they attended school. And one of the unintended consequences of that was then coming in that Monday morning, May 20th, we were able to start our summer projects right off the bat.
Hmm.
Again, typically it would have been another week before we really dug in because we needed to keep everything, looking nice
Hmm.
for the graduation. But
Right.
May 20th, we started our high school gym floor has already been resurfaced. We had a company here bringing down our chimney that needs to be replaced.
Hmm.
And we have two classrooms that have flooring being replaced. So those rooms
Hmm.
were emptied. And, that was all just the first week of summer work.
Wow.
And I'm really proud of our full-time maintenance and custodial staff. But along with that, we've hired 5 high school students to come and help with the summer work. And I just can't say enough for just their ability to be self-starters and get the job done. And
Hmm.
the place is looking great already, and it's not even June.
Now, have you? I'm curious because so many districts around you finish the week after that you're talking
Mhm.
about that your kids were done with school. Have you had any inquiries from fellow superintendents around you to say, "Gosh, what did you do to get your kids out so early?" And maybe get a jump start on that summer stuff you're talking about there.
Yeah, and statewide, we're all required to have the same number of student attendance days, but
Mm-hmm.
what I find is it becomes a community expectation and what people get used to. So
Mm.
for our district, we don't take a full spring break. We have an early dismissal the Wednesday before Easter, and then have Thursday, Friday, and the Monday after Easter off.
Mm-hmm.
So we do that instead of a full spring break. And then I know some districts in the area have gone to having a fall break as well, where
Mm-hmm.
they might take a full week off in October or maybe around Thanksgiving. We don't do either of those.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not taking some of those extra days off throughout the school year. So then our students are done mid-May.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's tough when we hear about some of the districts getting those fall breaks and the full spring break. It's like, oh, just a couple days off. But when it gets to May and the middle of May, we're done. Everyone's very grateful and appreciative.
Right. I mean, would you rather have a day off of school when you've only got, that daylight from like what 7 in the morning until
Right,
5:30, or would you
right,
rather have another week where you've got almost
right.
a whole day of daylight and all that and great
Exactly.
weather and all those things? So for sure,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And I feel like our staff and parents and students have really embraced the idea of the e-learning days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The year before I started here, the district had essentially gone one-to-one as far as student devices.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we have a well-established plan, and in those winter months, if we have a forecast that is calling for any questionable decision making as far as if we are going to be in school or not, and again, overall, the consensus has been let's do the e-learning days because again, rather than have that traditional snow day when you really can't get out and do much, let's get that day off in May.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work for everyone, and that's where I feel like our staff is very accommodating. That for some of those students who just aren't able to do the work at home,
Mm-hmm.
then the staff works with them when we get back,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that students don't miss the instruction. So
Yep.
uh, again, it's a community perspective, and I know not every parent is a fan of it, but for the most part, those e-learning days, our staff has embraced. The
Mm-hmm.
students see the benefit of it, and those parents that really struggle with it, we work with them.
Sure, sure. Mrs. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the phone for today. Well, Mrs. Vogt, let's do kind of a step back, look and listen, and get a recap of the 23-24 school year that was. How did things go this year? What did you think of the school year in Bement?
I feel like it was another fantastic year. For the second year in a row, our middle school received exemplary status from the State Board of Education, which just speaks highly not only for that middle school staff, but also the elementary staff leading up to it. Where I sometimes, and I know we talked about this, I get a little bit frustrated. Like our high school wasn't rated because we don't have a large enough population for all of the areas where they rate high schools. So it's not that, that our middle school is the only group extremely successful. I feel like our whole district is. Um, when we started the school year, we had some long-term substitutes. We had a couple of teachers who had come out of retirement to help fill spots for us. Now here we sit at the end of May, and if all of the approvals go as I think they will at our June board meeting, we will be fully staffed with only one part-time retired teacher teaching Spanish. The rest of our positions we will fill with certified teachers.
Okay.
And I just feel so grateful that, when I very first started in the district, there were a lot of positions that just weren't filled. We ended up having the Cerro Gordo band director come over for 1 hour a day, and
Oh, wow.
we just really tried to piece things together so that our students could get the experience that they deserve. And now here we are going into the next school year, essentially fully staffed, which is
Nice.
unheard of in this day and age.
Certainly
with
is. Yeah, for
shortage.
sure. Mrs. Vogt, did you do anything this year, whether it was introduce new programs, curriculums, new, just new opportunities? Was there anything new this year that you tried out for the first time? Or maybe a continuation of something that's relatively new?
Gosh, Seth, I feel like that's every day for me because this whole job still feels so new to me.
Yeah.
But one thing we are doing here in the unit office that most people won't ever really see or feel the impact of, we did not have a financial software program for our district finances where I could like real time at a glance see how much money have we spent, how much money have we received in any certain line item. Not to say that, there was anything wrong with how things were being done. In fact, the bookkeeper for 39 years, Janie Hamilton, she's retiring at the end of this year.
Hmm.
She could tell you to the penny um, at the end of each month where we stood. But um, I am not experienced enough to be able to jump in and catch up with her 39 years of experience. So I needed something with that real-time access. So
Hmm.
for me, for the district, that's one of the major changes that we implemented starting this school year was doing online financial management, and what we'll be able to do with that as far as personnel as well. We'll
Hmm.
we'll be able to track requests for time off, etc. Right now,
Nice.
all of that has been done paper pencil.
Yeah, so you're finishing up year 2, correct?
I am.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about, just kind of your comfort level with everything a second
Sure.
time around? As you embark on your third time
Mhm.
through, I guess.
Mhm.
How are you feeling about things right now, Mrs.
Yeah.
Vogt?
Yeah, I'm going to steal an analogy that a superintendent I heard explain this last year. He was finishing his third year, and he said, that first year, it's like you're drinking from a fire hose and the punches just come at you left and right, left and right. Your second year, they're coming, but you can avoid some of them a little bit. And then your third year, like you really know, okay, this is coming and here's how I can manage the situation. So I definitely can relate to that drinking from a fire hose the first year. The second year, knowing, all right, this is coming, but I can't avoid all the hits. So I'm looking forward to that third year feeling like, all right, here's how we manage this situation and really getting ahead of it before I feel like it's coming at me from all sides.
What has been one or two things that have surprised you the most about the learning curve of being a superintendent?
So I feel like it's different for superintendents depending on the size of your district. So with the Bement School District, we are a small rural community. It is me and the bookkeeper.
Hmm.
We are responsible for everything. You get a larger school district, and you might have an assistant superintendent for human resources, assistant superintendent for, the chief school business official, et cetera. And so you, as your district grows, you have more people who are in charge of all of the finances and reporting and HR, et cetera. Whereas here, it's all me.
Hmm.
It's the bookkeeper. Fortunately, our board has been so supportive. When the bookkeeper announced that she would retire at the end of this year, the board agreed that we could hire somebody to work alongside her. So that has been invaluable that
Hmm.
we have a person who's been trained. But I hadn't really thought about that before taking the position that some of those tasks that superintendents in a larger district never have to touch because they have an assistant who takes care of that for them.
Hmm. Right. Now, what are some of the benefits of, though, having a smaller district to be the superintendent over, Mrs. Vogt, from your perspective?
Well, Seth, I have control issues, and so I do know what's going on with everything, and I do have a hand in all of it. And so for me, that's a huge benefit.
No doubt, no doubt. And there's probably not as much to keep track of in a smaller school district, right?
There aren't any fewer reports that we have to do
Right.
because we're
Yeah.
a smaller district. It's just we don't have as much data to sort through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Makes
if that
sense.
makes
That
sense.
does make sense. Yep, for sure, for sure. Very good. Well, Mrs. Vogt, I'll tell you what. I look at the clock. Let's take a break
Yeah.
here. Come back and maybe talk about what's going on this summer in your district and what's ahead for next school year. But in the meantime, where do folks go to learn about all things Bement schools? What's the best place?
www.bement.k12.il.us.
That is, again, Mrs. Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools. My guest on the phone. More to come with Mrs. Vogt on the morning show.
WHOW. Let's check the markets on the RFD radio network. I'm DeLoss Yankee, higher today after 3 consecutive days of losses for corn and soybeans. July corn up 3.5, 452 and a quarter. September up 3, 460 and 3/4. December up 2.5, 473 and a half. July soybeans up a dime, 12.19 and 3/4. August up 9 1/4, 12.17 and a quarter. November up 8 1/4, 11.98 and a quarter. Soy meal for July up 4.50, 368.10. Soy oil up 47, 46.19. July wheat, Chicago up 6 1/4, 687 and a quarter. In Kansas City up 10.5, 720. Minneapolis up 9.5, 751 and a half. So a green screen to start the day in Chicago. This is the RFD Radio Network.
MR Systems Wireless is your local internet provider for Clinton and surrounding area. They have the products you want and the local service you deserve. MR Systems Wireless Internet service for home or business includes unlimited data, unlimited streaming, and unlimited calling. Plans start at just $48 a month and get a free Roku 4 lease with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
Allergy season is here, and our Warner Hospital and Health Services walk-in clinic inside our family medicine is here to help. No appointment, no problem. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Ramey Miller from Run Deep Coaching. Take your power back. I do holistic personal and business coaching. My service is virtual, so we can visit no matter where you are. Find out more by clicking my icon at dewitdailynews.com. That's dewitdailynews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, my guest on the Zoom call today is Mrs. Mary Vogt. She's the superintendent of Bement Schools. And Mrs. Vogt, what's going on in Bement Schools this summer? You have anything fun happening?
We are off and running, Seth. I mentioned we have a couple of classroom floors that are being replaced. We have in one of those rooms where the floor is being replaced, there was a safe that had not been used for over 20 years. So that's been quite the conversation topic because there was a sticker on it saying that it was filled with poisonous gas and bullets if anyone were to break it open, which was just meant to be a deterrent to keep people from tampering with it. But
Wow.
again, quite a conversation piece. So that was picked up by a local person who is interested in having it restored. So great. We haven't used it for over 20 years. We don't need to hang on to it.
Really? You don't want that around just for fun?
Nope. I mean, we have a safe that does get used, so we don't need the backup. We have one of the chimneys, part of the 1920s part of the building, chimney for our boiler. We were told that a strong storm could bring the whole thing down, so we are in the process of having that replaced, and the company who was taking it down said yes, the top few feet of the chimney still had mortar around the bricks. The bottom few feet still had mortar, but there in the middle, they were able to just take the bricks off by hand because there was nothing holding them in place anymore. So a necessary project. I just hate to spend the money on things that I want to do fun things like air conditioner or gym, but we'll have to save our pennies for that.
Evidently. Now, don't you have the 1 cent sales tax dollars kind of flowing in there in
We do.
Bement?
Yeah, we do. The price of the chimney, though, is about almost $500,000. And so we
Whoa.
don't generate enough money from the 1 cent sales tax to cover that.
$500,000 for that project? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I would
Yeah.
never have guessed that. That's a chunk of change there.
It sure is. So, we have money coming in from the school maintenance grant through the state. That's $50,000, and then part of that grant is that we match the $50,000. We had $150,000 in health, life, safety money. So there we're getting to the total, and then we had sold some working cash bonds, so we'll use bond money to pay for the rest.
Anything else going on this summer?
Just our standard, getting the classrooms emptied and redoing all of the floors, cleaning. We have some rooms that are moving. Our art classroom had been the only room where there was a teacher all day that had no access or possibility of having air conditioning. And so we're shifting where the art classroom is.
Okay.
Which then was a bit of a domino effect. But of course, my PE teachers, the gym isn't air conditioned, but both of them teach other classes like driver's ed, health during the day, where they do have some access on those extremely hot days to get cooled off. But just for that art classroom, I wanted to find a space where the students and the teacher could be comfortable and not have the heat impede learning. And I, years ago, we've talked about this. We didn't have air conditioning in all of the classrooms and whatnot, but when I was in school, we could also open all the windows and prop open the doors and put fans in the doors and get a nice cross breeze, but just safety protocols, we can't do that anymore.
Right. And when you talk about the limited budget, you've got to prioritize what projects you take on. So,
Right.
yeah, it's kind of one step at a time there with some of those things
Yes.
for sure. Well, Mrs. Vogt, you mentioned you are fully staffed going into the next school year. So, with that kind of taken care of, what's your focus as you get ready for school year 24-25 there in Bement?
Yeah, so, oftentimes people don't realize this is one of the busiest times of year for superintendents because we are wrapping up the previous school year, but then, the timeline for having the FY25 budget approved, that has to be done by September 30th. We have to present a tentative budget at least 30 days before the budget gets approved. So then that's looking at when the board meetings are scheduled and if those have to be moved. And then, of course, before you can present your tentative budget, you need to actually create the tentative budget. So really combing through and seeing where we end up financially at the end of this year so that we can plan for next year. And then what I'm working with our technology department on is replacing teacher computers. It's been for some teachers, they have not had a computer replaced for well over 10 years.
Wow.
In this day and age, that makes it ancient. Updates aren't able to be made. So we are in the process of and something else that when the last purchase was made, it was like for everyone all at once. If you imagine that, it's when a machine goes down, they're all going to go down.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're stair-stepping the process. I'm doing half of the staff this summer, which then creates some worry for the teachers coming back. Are my files all going to be there, et cetera? But just trying to take care of the staff and making sure they have the tools they need for teaching our students.
Well, Mrs. Vogt, enjoy your summer. Hopefully, you get some R&R and a little time away. But in the meantime, best way for folks to keep up with Bement schools, whether it's keeping up with important dates as we get to the new school year, all the calendar of activities as they come up. What's the best way for folks to learn about all these things?
www.bement.k12.il.us.
That is Mrs. Mary Vogt. She is the superintendent of Bement Schools, our guest on the phone here, or on the Zoom call, I guess I should say, here on this Friday. Coverage of the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Of course, we stream live online all the time at DeWittDailyNews.com. Network news comes your way next on the morning show.